Hello, welcome to the brush tool, one of the most important tools in Adobe Photoshop. Hit B on your keyboard, that's the hotkey or the shortcut key for brush tool. Those who have familiar with Photoshop or have some experience with Adobe Photoshop may not need to know this at all, but those who are very new need to see this. What do we do with the brush tool? So let's take a small example of this freehand illustration. So I take my color palette, meaning I choose my colors for this illustration. And simply paint this with the brush tool. I take the other color, that's the skin tone or the flesh tone. And if I want, I can add some characteristics to the sketch as well. So I change a few options over here and add some characteristics, or that is, you can call shadings or some dimension to the sketch. Or I can go to another sketch. For example, this illustration where I already have painted the skin tone with the brush tool. Let's do the shots. So I have already done the selection to this, and therefore it is not spilling outside. So it's a simple selection with the magic wand tool. And now if I want to add characteristics or do some styling to this illustration, I can do this. And I change some more options, and from these very simple illustrations, let's move to some complex usage of brush tool in Adobe Photoshop. Now look at this painting. This is not a project or not an assignment. This is just like that, but I'm trying to create some effect which looks like acrylic paint or oil paint. Or we can go to something like this, or we can even do something like this which looks very heavy complex work. But if you look at some of the elements in this painting, you'll see that it is nothing but the brush tool. Or even if you look at the detailing, now many times people say that this is some sort of photograph used with some filter and make it look like painting, but no, this is completely painted with brush tool like traditional painting. And the detail or the realistic effect you get is all because of the time, lot of time being invested. However, for many people this is a daily routine work and they can do these kind of things in couple of hours. So this is what we can do with the brush tool in Adobe Photoshop. Apart from this, we can also do something like this. Not just this, but you can also add water, rain and snow and convert this abandoned colony into a Christmas Eve in Switzerland with brush tool, and of course few more features of Adobe Photoshop. And you'll be doing so many exciting things with the brush tool alone in Photoshop, and you'll be also able to see many exciting things we do with the brush tool in this course itself. Now some of you might get scared by looking at this kind of artworks, but this is not a job profile of a Photoshop artist. All this is happening to show you the introduction to the brush tool and not to scare you. So those who are very new to Photoshop or to the topic, they might get scared and they might think that if they become a graphic designer, they will have to do this kind of work. But trust me that nobody will ask you to do this kind of work at your workplace if you join as a graphic designer. But you can learn these kind of things for your own pleasure. I have done this, created this portrait for a tutorial, and I taken a long time to do this. But on the other hand, for some people this is cakewalk. I know many artists, a couple of my friends from the fine art school can do this like a cakewalk. For example, fashion designers do these kind of illustrations on daily basis, and they might create dozens of these kind of illustrations every day. So let's move ahead and look at some simple options in the option panel with the brush tool, and gradually we'll move to the complex options or the advanced options. Right now what you see are just couple of options, very easy to understand. First of all, opacity. It's very straightforward. Opacity is transparency of the brush. So with 100% opacity, this is what I'm painting, and if I lower down the opacity, this is what I paint. And I can paint over and over again and achieve the darkest opacity or the darkest intensity, but it helps a lot when I use the opacity to drop down the intensity of my painting. Now to change the opacity, you can also use the numerical keys on your keyboard. So if I say 77, you can pay attention to the opacity value. If I say 55, it's 55, or I type any value on the numerical keys on the keyboard, the opacity changes. Along with that, we have flow. Now let's change opacity to 100% and flow. Now with 100% flow, this is my painting, and if I lower down the flow, you see it's light, and as I paint over this, it keeps on getting darker and darker. In other words, it simply works like pencil. As we start drawing with a pencil, it's light, and we can draw over and over again repeatedly, and it gets on darker and darker. It's a very useful thing if you are doing something artistic, or if you are doing painting work, literally painting work in Photoshop, like painting these illustrations and other things. The other option, we have this tiny little icon over here. Now this icon is for the people who are using the stylus or the tablet pen. Now for those who do not know what is tablet pen, let me show you what is tablet and pen. Now tablet pen is this device which is used instead of the regular mouse, and this allows you to use the pressure of the pen just like your pencil or the pen or the paintbrush, and this is used by the illustrators along with the Photoshop. Now coming back to our options, so this option is given for the pen tablet, and this allows you to use the pressure for opacity. So I'm right now using the pen tablet, and if you don't have pen tablet attached, this option will not work. These two options will not function. So it only works with the pen and tablet. So I have my pen tablet attached to this computer, not the mouse, so I can use the pressure to create the opacity. Now my opacity is 100 and my flow is also 100, and I switch on all two of these options to use the pressure of the stylus pen. And if I use with this option, if I use less pressure, you see the thickness of my brush is very thin, but I press the mouse hard and the thickness is now changing. So I can use it as a calligraphy tool like this one, and with this I can use the pressure to change the opacity. So let me clear off this canvas, and if I use a low pressure on my pen, I get this smooth transparent light color, and if I press hard my pen on the tablet, I get this dark color. So that's the use of these two things, and you'll get confused that if you have only mouse attached to your computer, these two buttons or these two functions or these two options do not work.